Bam! Top of the day to you. Welcome to the New Life Recovery Show. If I think better, I do better. So, you've heard me share this stat. I'm going to share it again. America represents 5% of the world's population, yet we have 25% of the justice involved persons in the world. This country, 5% of the world's population, 25% of the justice involved. 38.8% of them are black men, and black women are the fastest growing demographic. What happens to the broader community when we are so disaffected by mass incarceration? What happens? What happens to us mentally, physically, spiritually, economically, politically, culturally, socially? What happens to us? You know what happens. Some of us lose our cotton-picking minds. But fear not, we have an expert with some solutions, especially if you're trying to get back into the workforce. We have my dear friend. First, let me say thank you, Lisa, for helping me with my 30th anniversary at our alma mater, Coppin State. The venue was absolutely beautiful.
Yes. Well, I was just grateful to be a part of it in that way. And, once again, congratulations. I was just absolutely so thrilled. You were being honored for 30 years, of broadcasting and journalism excellence.
To God be the glory. Now, you, my friend, we've been working together, I guess somewhere between 10, 15 years. I don't remember. Did we meet through Debbie, who had the networking events? Where did we meet?
It's been about 10 years. I was living in Sandtown, Winchester, and I ran into you at the market. And that's when I saw you for the first time, kind of face to face. And like I said, it was about 10 years ago. And you were so instrumental in showcasing Sandtown, Winchester, after the riots. And so
Wow.
that's when you got on my radar, because you were such an ambassador for Sandtown, Winchester, during that really difficult time. And, I absolutely love it because it showed how you turn your pain into power. Sandtown, Winchester, West Baltimore is still, true to my heart. And I was just so thrilled that, that you were an advocate for for West Baltimore during a very difficult time for all of us.
But then I find out what you do. Tell them what you do.
Okay, thank you. So I'm the executive director of Celebrate Us Workforce Training. We are a certificate to degree professional development workforce training program. No matter what, kind of the noise is about, student loan debt and all of that, higher education is still one of the most effective ways out of poverty. And so we help students wherever they are get to a certificate, and, at their pace, they can go all the way up to a degree. And especially with individuals with barriers, right? And our barriers can become so burdensome that it becomes too difficult to carry around that burden. And what higher education, advanced training, and a good job will make those burdens more manageable. If you're carrying around a big rock, you can't move much. But if you shrink that rock down to a small pebble, you can put it in your pocket, in your purse, but you can have a very fulfilling, and prosperous life.
So in our community, as I noted earlier, we are so disaffected by mass incarceration. You look around. If you live in East Baltimore, I remember when I was playing football for Dunbar, and I wasn't any star. Wrestling was where I was more of a star. But on the football field, as you're on the football field, you're looking over on Greenmount, and from the football field, and I'm just, can only imagine if you live there. We have a football practice, and you're staring at the city jail, the penitentiary, diagnostic, Supermax. That alone wears on the psyche, and God forbid if you got a relative who happens to be inside there. How do we process all of this prison life just for the everyday person in East Baltimore?
So the first thing we have to, do is recognize it as trauma. I know people who have spent one night in lockup that were so traumatized by it. And what ends up happening is, especially mass incarceration, sometimes we become jaded, especially in our community. It's almost like, oh, it's expected. And the danger in that is that, our relatives, our neighbors, our friends don't get the help that they need to be able to navigate their lives after incarceration. Because even if you stop the behavior that sends you to jail, you still have to live in this economy. You have to live in this community, and you want to live and not just exist. And that's why it's so important to start with identifying mass incarceration as trauma. Because when you are mired in trauma, it delays everything. It delays your progress. It delays your sense of self. It delays your confidence and self-esteem. And it really makes you feel like there's nothing left for you to do, but that's just not the case. And that's why I'm such a strong advocate of mental health, of, getting, we maintenance everything in our lives. We maintenance our car. We manage everything. We manage our money. We manage our weight. We maintenance our house. We do everything but manage and maintenance our mental health.
Well, I got a therapist. I got a few therapists, because Lord knows I haven't seen enough.
Once again, I applaud you. I applaud you because, we in the, African American community, we coined the phrase, what goes on in this house stays in this house. And what that did is it created a landscape where individuals facing abuse, neglect, abandonment had to hold it all in. And when you turn 18, someone tells you to go out and be a productive adult. Well, that's just not viable, and it's not realistic, and so I believe so much. I'm not actively in therapy now, but I believe in therapy so much that my therapist came to my graduation at Coppin, because therapy does not mean that you're crazy. Therapy says you need answers to your behavior. And she taught me so many tools that allowed me, to be able to get through 4 years of college, and then, additional, time to be able to pursue a master's degree. And you cannot do, a wobbly table can never be stable. You have to fix that, fix what is causing it to wobble. Because if you put anything on a wobbly table, it's going to be affected in some way. It's going to fall over. It may fall to the ground. And so you have to fix the foundation of that wobbly table in order for you to, to be able to stack everything on it. You want to stack your education, your family, your prosperity, your business, but so many of us are existing right now as a wobbly table.
Wow. Wow. That's just profound. We got a lot of wobbly tables in our community.
The wobbly tables, and some people can live with a wobbly table for a long time, but living with living as, something unstable over time, it just really impacts your quality of life. I teach a module about someone 78 years old. And so, you can have a 78-year-old person that lives in Broadmead out in Hunt Valley, which is a very, very upscale retirement community for seniors. And you can have the same wonderful 78-year-old living in a public housing senior development in McCullough Homes. What's the difference? What's the difference between that 78-year-old living in an upscale retirement community versus a senior that's living in subsidized housing? Is that one person at some point in their life fixed that wobbly table, and the other person, it doesn't mean that they're not wonderful. It just means that they found a way to live with that instability, and it never took them as far as they wanted to go.
Wow. So you start a business. Tell me about your business.
So Celebrate Us, and it's not misspelled. It's spelled with 2 E's. Because I was the very person who I serve now. I was the unstable, justice involved person with mental health challenges, trying to exist in life. And the first thing that I learned is that God doesn't want us existing in life. He wants us to live. And so when I started to learn what it is to live, the best thing that ever happened to me is when I found God in 2007. And when I found God, I swear God has the best sense of humor. And a lot of people will ask God for things. I asked God for guidance, and I asked God, I said, God, I just want to make better decisions. And God has a wonderful sense of humor. He sent me to school. Because decisions are based on the strength of your critical thinking skills. And I had zero. I had no critical thinking skills. And so when I started school, I really started to do things that strengthened my critical thinking skills. And I went into, I did a workforce training program, medical billing and coding. And for the first time in my life, I discovered that I can be good at something, and so I got, at the time, I got hired by Johns Hopkins, and, I just started for the first time living my life instead of just existing. I was able to put my sons in, basketball camp, put my daughter in ballet class. I started living, instead of existing. And so the experience was so wonderful for me that I went back, I went to the Career Center. I said, I want to start my own workforce program. And, they laughed at me, and the reason they laughed at me is because, it was unheard of back then of a person starting a workforce training program, and they said, well, you got to work, and you got to go get a job, and and that's exactly what I did. And one of those critical thinking skills that got strengthened for me is my listening skills. When I started listening, my life started changing.
What do you mean?
So my life started changing when you fail to listen. It means that it's not necessarily that you're not listening. You're taking your counsel from the wrong entity or the wrong person. And that's what I was doing. I was listening to myself. But one of the things I realized is that I was not equipped, to listen to myself. I needed to listen to people that could help me to move my life forward. And so, equally as important to therapy are mentors. And I started assembling mentors that really helped me understand how to help others. And I started Celebrate Us Workforce Training while I was still in school. The school did so much to support me. And by 2022, I do training in 5 states. And it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful.
Do you like it?
They tell you how you measure if you like something is if you are willing to do it for free. And I did it for free for a long, long time, 3 years to be exact. That's how much I love it. And because it's nothing like hearing someone say, Miss Lisa, I got the job. I got the job, Miss Lisa. And, my students are just famous for bringing me good news. This past spring, I had some CNAs that took my training in 2021 who graduated as RNs. And so just to know that they got that encouragement and that guidance and support from a program that God put inside of me, to be able to share, with the world. It's such a blessing. It's such a blessing.
Who is this lady, Alicia Holden?
So Delaware is one of the states that I deliver training in. And Alicia is a graduate of Celebrate Us. And not only is she a graduate of Celebrate Us, she bought me her daughter. So her daughter is a graduate, and she has directed so many people from Delaware to my program. I'm forever grateful to her. I affectionately call her the Christmas lady because she was born on Christmas Day. And not only is she a graduate of Celebrate Us, she's a friend and, one of my biggest supporters.
How you spell Celebrate Us?
So it's spelled CELEEBRATE, Celebrate Us, because we do extra for our students, employers, and our training partners.
Is that right there?
That's it.
And is there a website?
So it's celebrateusworkforcetraining.com. Now the website is spelled with one E because my hosting company said that it was too long as it is. So it's spelled the regular way you spell celebrate. So it's celebrateusworkforcetraining.com.
And so how is it doing now?
It's doing wonderful. I got a call today from a distillery in Halethorpe, and they are experiencing a massive growth in their business. And so they reached out to me because, they don't want warm bodies. They want really dedicated professionals. And, the young lady in HR that reached out to me, she said, I was on your website and, I started researching your program, and I really see how you develop and build better workers. And so they would like to partner with me. I'm also doing some wonderful work with the Justice Involved community. One of the reasons I temporarily got off of Facebook because I was contacted by the Reform Alliance. And the Reform Alliance is an organization that was started by Jay-Z and Meek Mills. And it was designed to, to really get rid of some antiquated parole and probation laws and really, have some improvements in how not only do we build our life after incarceration, but how we try to manage being in a very broken parole and probation system. So since 2019, they have helped over 800,000 individuals around the country either get a reduced sentence, get their parole and probation modified, but now they are restructuring to be able to offer resources to, you know, those individuals, and they reached out to me to be able to help with that transition. And so it was such an honor to be, you know, I was invited to their headquarters in Times Square. It was just beautiful, and it's just wonderful. They have a wonderful assembly of, you know, professionals that every day they wake up with the justice involved at the top of mind.
So how does it feel to help people transform their lives?
Well, once again, you know, people are doing this wonderful work every day. But for someone like myself, who was once that person that needed those services, and to be able to build a career that now allows me to help the people that I once was, it's an unbelievable feeling of gratitude, gratefulness, and pride.
People who are behind the walls, what are some of the challenges they face knowing that they're about to come home?
So one of the things that I really kind of put this to the forefront is helping individuals to understand the condition of the family even before the person became behind the walls, right? Most of the families of relatives who are currently behind the wall, the family was struggling even before then, you know, even before they became incarcerated. And so my focus with working behind the walls will be, how do you get individuals ready on the first day of their release? Because the first 30 days are the hardest of the hardest. So you get released from behind the walls and you're happy that you're home, but to your family, depending on your family dynamics, you're now another mouth to feed. You're now another person that is, you're expending, the utilities, the water. So, and nobody feels worse about it than the actual person getting released. And so I have a project that I'm starting on Monday called the 551 Project, is where I'll work with 5 justice involved women the last 5 months of their incarceration so that they'll be ready on day 1. And so I have 5 women, 5 individuals from 5 different state counties. So my first class is 25 women, and they're getting released within the next 5 months. And the response and the outpouring of organizations that partnered with me was just incredible. The MTA, I met with them, and they right at the meeting, they gave me 10, monthly bus passes to give to the social work department at the facility. And they committed to donating $5,000 worth of monthly passes so the individual can get to work, And so the United Way stepped up. The United Way is going to take care of, it costs $25 to get a birth certificate. To somebody coming out of prison, you might as well say it's $2,500, because that's how, that's how it feels to someone just coming out of prison. But the United Way is going to take care of the birth certificates and government IDs, because you can't work without a government issued ID and a birth certificate. But the biggest agency I'm going to give kudos to is DHS. So DHS actually gave me access to one of their community partners in Howard County, where the facility is, that will help the ladies in their last 30 days to get qualified for SNAP benefits and TANF benefits, so that on their first day of release, if they're going home to mama, they're going home with some groceries. They're going home with, mama, here's something on the gas electric bill. And so, yay!
Lisa, why do you care? Why do you care?
Oh, please. Like I said, I always tell people, I always joke with my students and say, you all are so much better than me. I was just a mess. And it was because when God blesses you with a beautiful life, it's not meant for you to hold on to. You have to share. And so everything that I did to have the life I have now is what I'm supposed to do, is share it, with individuals in that same situation.
Lisa, that sounds nice, but some of us wouldn't share with nobody.
No, that's true.
We could have a pocket full of money and wouldn't share with a homeless person or a less fortunate person. We wouldn't visit the sick. We wouldn't visit the incarcerated. We wouldn't visit the seniors. Some of us are just so, what happened to us as a community that we've become so individualistic and self-serving?
So you have to, and this is just my opinion, you have to go back to slavery. And when we got to this country, remember, we were kings and queens in our home country. And so you can't be a king or queen without having some internal and inherited leadership skills. So when we got brought to this country, we were trained to be against each other, right? That was by design, because our oppressors knew that we possessed leadership skills, that we were all about family, that we were all about supporting each other. So a lot of what has happened to our community, it happened to us. We didn't do it to ourselves, because you can't get your agenda done with people who are united, who are loving, who are, secure with themselves. So you have to pour insecurity into them. You have to say, oh, Joe, I think James is looking at your wife, right? Like they pour that kind of doubt and dismay and chaos into us as people. And, once you're trained to do something, you have to be intentional about getting untrained to do it. And so a lot of what people do or don't do is because of what we were inherently infused with.
So recidivism, 70% of the people incarcerated go right back.
So I teach a module called Anthem. My students are required to build a personal and professional anthem. So an anthem is, we go to the Ravens game, we go to an Orioles game, we sing the national anthem. And that national anthem is a song of loyalty and, declaration. We're declaring that we're going to, be supportive of this country. We're not going to turn on this country. We're not going to go against this country. Well, my students are required to build their own anthem, and it's a song, and so a song has lyrics, and so I have my own anthem that helped me to never go back to prison. And it's an anthem called Operating in Excellence. And your anthem is 5 principles. And my 5 principles are: do the right thing first is number 1. Lead with kindness is number 2. Number 3 is integrity always. Number 4 is improve on something every day. And number 5 is walk in peace. And so the recidivism rate is because people leave prison with a promise to themselves instead of a declaration. So a promise is words. We've broken promises to ourselves. Others have broken promises to us. But when you declare something, a declaration is a promise with a plan. And so if people had a viable plan when they got out of prison, that would reduce the recidivism rate tremendously. And that's actually what I'm going to be teaching to the women at MCIW, how to leave prison with a plan instead of a promise.
Any thoughts on mass incarceration among our young people? The Brooklyn massacre comes to mind, other incidents that involve young people shooting and killing. Where is our community on that? And then there's always the stop snitching piece. Where does all of this fall into play?
So one of the things that makes me hopeful about our community is the youth, that are coming. They have been paying attention. So the youth that are being disruptive with the behavior problems, you have to go to the source and the adult that was put in charge of them. A 17-year-old that is, doing, disruptive things, maladaptive things, hasn't lived on this earth long enough, to do those things, without there being some very definitive neglect on their development. Does that make sense? One of the challenges and one of the mistakes that we make is that we hold those youth responsible for their behavior. So if you have a 17-year-old, even if you say, okay, he stopped going to school at 13, so there was an adult somewhere, or it's supposed to have been an adult in position to be able to pour into that youth. Because once that youth went out into the community, now they're just surviving. So they're robbing people to survive. They're holding up something. They're in the worst condition you can be in is survival mode. But then you also have to look at the foundation. So if you were a single mother on a foundation where there was no presence of a father, once again, it goes back to that wobbly table, because, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
It goes back to that wobbly table. Whenever I walk past a group of young people, you know what I say to them? I tell them, if no one has told you that they love you today, I love you. And I'm a perfect stranger to them. And the reason is because the adult that was put in charge of that youth didn't have the support, the support that they needed to be able to properly raise, that youth. And so everything goes back to the source.
So look, a lot of times in schools, so under Andres Alonzo, when he was the school CEO, he got rid of 75% of the principals. And they were quite often big mamas, black women. So now you got people who are coming into the fold who are putting our young people on Ritalin without really understanding their situation. It's so easy for people who don't love our children to give them something as harsh as Ritalin because they don't understand that energy.
And so once again, you have to go back to the source. What is the purpose of medicating a child during school? The purpose of it is for classroom management. And the reason why I'm so happy that you're bringing this up is because those big mamas that you talked about, those are not the people who are becoming educators now. You have people who are becoming educators, not all, but some who they just want their student loans paid off. They want to be able to buy a house. And so they can't manage their classroom the way a big mama, educator did, because their motive for becoming a teacher is kind of clouded. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
It's clouded. But teaching is not the only industry that's facing that. Healthcare is facing it as well. You have a lot of people going into nursing that they don't have the acumen or I'll say the soul of being a nurse, because they want to become a nurse because certain nurses can make $70 an hour, $80 an hour. And so they are drawn by something. They're motivated by something other than wanting to help someone get better. And so, like I said, teaching, and this is not something I'm speculating. This is something that I've heard from retired teachers. So, when people are going into something with the wrong motive, and the motive wins. Does that make sense? If your motive is, my motive is to help to improve the economic landscape of households. So my motive wins when I get a student, that only worked in a warehouse all their lives, that's now a RN, because my motive was to help that student to get across that finish line.
So let me ask you this. What do you think? I've been holding this question for a minute. What do you think when you hear people say, not everybody is made to go to college?
Well, number one is true. That's factual. And not only is not everyone, fit for a college landscape, there are other ways to get to prosperity without, a degree. There's some wonderful certification programs that don't require a degree. It just requires specialized knowledge. So higher education is not only a degree. Higher education is just a higher level of learning.
So your program is open to all ages from our community, or all communities, all peoples, Black,
Yes.
White, Eskimo, Chinese, Indian?
Yes. And so the advantage that, that Celebrate Us has is that it's our partners. So we have we partner with the community colleges, and they're so, generous, giving my students access to some wonderful programs and projects. I have everything from, if you want to be a veterinarian, if you love animals that much, you can come to Celebrate Us and become a veterinarian, and so because at the core of Celebrate Us, we are a choice program. We don't just give you what's on the menu. You tell us what is it that's going to help you rise above where you are now.
Now I want to go back to that incarceration education piece. As soon as a cat get locked up and gets sent over to the jail, they get classroom time. So why not just go to class now? And I say that, Lisa, I think more people are able to go to college than, I just find a lot of times we make excuses. Am I wrong about that? It's like, I can't do this, I can't do that. But you can't find the admissions office, but you can find a party in DC. I think about our ancestors who learned how to read by candlelight when to do so was punishable by death. I'm looking at a cat ride a motorbike up Pennsylvania Avenue, one hand, blindfold, turned around backwards. But you telling me this guy, this girl cannot sit in a classroom and get a college degree? I'm just, it's like we do what we want to do. We can't buy a suit, but we got a $300. We can't buy a suit for a job interview, but we got a $300 belt on.
Right. So what I tie that to is that
we do what we want to do.
Right, but you have to anchor that to appetite. See, we have an appetite for success, but not the hunger to do what's necessary to become successful. So if you have
there's no shortcuts. You got to do the work.
Right, but you have to understand the appetite for some people is to look successful. See, you can look successful with a $300 belt on, but remember, it's the hunger that's going to make you actually successful. You have to understand that sitting in the classroom, stand up. My daughter, I'll give you an example. My daughter is beautiful. She has a lot of pictures, but my favorite picture of her is a picture of her in front of her laptop, no makeup, hair pulled up, and she's doing her homework. That's the sexiest picture I've ever seen of her. But that's not sexy to people who want to look good. But that's why she's 35 years old. She's in a Master's of Social Work program right now. She's been, at 85,000 a year, at her young age. Does it make sense? Because I helped her to see that education is sexy. You want to look sexy? Oh my goodness, those A's, those A's make you look like a runway model. And so what has gotten lost is that we've gotten so good at looking successful that there's no hunger to become successful.
What do people around the world think of our community from your perspective, African Americans? And let me just qualify it. I'm the biggest fan of our people. We are 15% of the population, and despite mass incarceration, health disparities, undereducation, underemployment, mental health challenges, any industry we get into, we're going to find a way to dominate, even ice skating.
Well, see, once again, for individuals around the country who are our allies, they know that we have the skill and the aptitude to disrupt any industry, right? The people who are our allies, right?
Or even create an industry.
Oh, absolutely. So the people who are our adversaries, remember, your adversaries know your strength too, but your adversary is invested in you never finding out what you're good at. So they dangle a lot of carrots in front of your face, things that can take you off, or distract you from doing the work. African American women are the number one demographic with the highest education in this country. And once again, that's why you're seeing, pushback, like the nonprofit that was shut down because they were funding African American women projects. See, that is a threat.
The Fearless Fund.
Yes.
The Fearless Fund.
Yeah, and so when people see you as a threat, they have to shut you down. They have to shut you down emotionally first. They have to make you think or feel bad about who you are. Because once you can disrupt a person's confidence, you can get them to listen or follow anything. So many people told me, oh, you can't do this. Oh, you're not going to be allowed to do that. But I had confidence in my abilities. And so you have to have the courage and the confidence to listen to your dreams and not listen to just people.
Lisa, are you a victim or a victor?
So I am a victor that transitioned from being a victim.
What does that mean?
So when you are not mature enough to accept and be accountable for your own behavior, you automatically look for somebody to blame.
Yes.
But when you become accountable, because one day you're going to look around the room and there's going to be nobody in the room but you, you know. And so, you know, I am a rape survivor, you know, child rape survivor. And so that contribute to a lot of maladaptive behavior. But at some point, they used to give us these cards called the age of majority card, right? And so your age of majority card says that now you are officially an adult. So go get the help that you never got. Go and talk to someone, because now you're an adult. You're responsible, you know, for your decisions. And God forbid, when you have children, now you know, if you're a person that's lacking, and now you have a baby that you're responsible for their existence, if you're not qualified to do that, you are a dysfunctional person. Now you're raising a dysfunctional person.
Do you know that we have people who do not send their children to school?
Mm-hmm. So once again, when you're in survival mode, you're not paying attention that your child missed 29 days of school. You're just trying to survive, you know. But once again, it takes courage to address your deficits, right? So a lot of people can get their deficits, you know. So if your deficit is lack of food, lack of education, lack of employment opportunities, lack of mental health services, lack of recovery support, you can get the help that you need, but it takes courage. It takes courage to unpack that. And so when people lack the courage to do things, once again, you stay in survival mode. So you're not paying attention to your health. You're not paying attention to your children. You're not paying attention to your surroundings, you know, because it takes courage. I was recently talking to someone about how in the UK, loneliness is now a medical diagnosis. And I was telling my friend, I said, they need to make loneliness a medical diagnosis in this country, because that feeling of loneliness will cause you to do things that will put your whole family in jeopardy. And I was speaking about one of my students that was so lonely that she let someone who she met after 3 weeks move into her house around her beautiful 9-year-old daughter. And, you know, some very awful things happened to her daughter, but the source of it was that person's loneliness. She was so lonely. She just wanted to belong, and she wanted someone to, you know, and she was never looking at what that decision would do to her family.
I want to ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was locked up for 3 days. What goes through a person's mind when they are handed a lengthy sentence?
So one of the things, even while you're going through that legal process, you are so paralyzed by the people you have let down, right? So remember, all of us was 5 years old before, and we would bring home a picture from kindergarten of a upside down tree, or a stick person that we drew. Mommy, you like this? We all have wanted to make somebody proud of us. So when you are going through a situation like that, the one thing that you feel is the shame of who you let down. And that just zaps your energy from wanting to rise above it. And so that's why it's so important to forgive yourself, to lean heavily on your faith, because you can become so paralyzed by the guilt of who you let down. And so when you're handed a sentence, that's the strongest emotion that you've let down someone that was important to you.
And one other question I wanted to ask you, and I've asked this to guests before. Have you ever seen 3 generations inside 3 generations from one family?
Absolutely. So when you are, so one of the things that I teach my students is that success looks different for people. Even if you're doing something wrong, if you've gotten away with it, that's a form of success to someone, right? So if you are, doing something, because remember, every industry needs a workforce. So your family members become the workforce. And how you incentivize and motivate them is by the things that you dangle, like money, a new pair of shoes, a $300 belt, and so that is not unusual. I had a grandfather in my program who his son and grandson are currently incarcerated because of this enterprise that he was running. And he came to me and said, I want you to help my son and grandson, but I need you to help me first. And so I helped him first, because every day that you wake up, you can atone for your decisions. So yes, it's not unusual to see family enterprises, because even if you're doing wrong, if you're getting away with it, that's still a form of success to you.
So let's talk about some of your successes. One of the things I love hearing about is a new company that you've landed in Pennsylvania, New York, or wherever, and they're working together with you. I love hearing about the programs you've established, like with the University of Maryland, the Surgical Tech program. Tell us about some of the successes so the people out here understand who Lisa Pierce is in her entirety.
So no one can become successful on their own. Every successful person has an engine behind them. And I've been so blessed to have some amazing engines. The biggest engines that I have is my education. Both of the schools that I graduated from has been very supportive of my work. And so that was the engine that started the Celebrate Us train, if you will. And so just yesterday, I have a new partnership with the University of Maryland Pharmacy School, with my existing partnership with Walgreens, because a lot of times we don't believe that success in certain areas have our name on it. And so I know a lot of hardworking pharmacy technicians that don't realize that, a pharmacy, a PharmD certification or degree is in their reach. And so yesterday we did an open house. And Southern Management is a new partner that I have. Southern Management is Southern Management is such a great partner because they have a maintenance program that includes on-site housing at some of their, developments. And for my students that leave Job Corps or leave foster care with no family to go to, that's a way to align them with a wonderful company, that will, help to support them in their journey.
Okay.
So yes, I have wonderful partnerships.
Good stuff. How can people get in touch with you, Lisa? And any final thoughts?
So my final thoughts, is to once again congratulate you for being the voice for our community for more than 30 years.
Ooh.
And I'm so
head and wear the crown.
and so I'm so grateful to you because you have supported Celebrate Us at every turn. You supported me with gift baskets. You had me and my DJ on, to talk about my party business. You've had my students who were released from incarceration on to tell their story. And so I'm so grateful for the support that you've given, Celebrate Us and given me, over the years.
Well, it's been easy, Lisa, because you help. Every time I call you, I tell you I got a young person, you help them. And even though all of them don't follow through, they know at least somebody is willing to help them before they get in a situation where it's real bad. They
Absolutely.
At least know somebody tried.
Well, not only that seed was planted. And so every seed grows differently.
Sometimes it don't happen right away.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But why do you push on anyway?
Well, I push on because I'm at a place where I'm really focusing on my legacy. I have grandchildren now, and I want my grandchildren to know that their Nana never gave up. So they're going to hear the negative stories, right? But, I make sure that my legacy, my work shines and surpasses whatever negativity they're going to hear about their grandmother.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Lisa, I appreciate you, especially Mr. Pierce. Special thank you to Mr. Pierce. He's always been supportive. Anything you want to add before we go?
The only thing that I want to add is that I want people to know that if you know someone that's struggling, if you know someone that needs, support, they need help, if I can't help them, I can certainly point them in the right direction. And so please reach out to me on Instagram at celebrate_careers_us. Or, on LinkedIn, or you could just send me a message through the website, because like I said, as we help each other, our community gets better.
Is that right there? That's your social media?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Good deal. Lisa Pierce, thank you so much. I bid you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. I'm so grateful for you, Donnie. Thank you so much.
We're going to keep on plugging. If you need a job, call me, 443-858-2684, and I'll get Miss Lisa on the phone for you. This would not be our first rodeo. We're always helping people, and she will help anybody. I've brought her cats in some situations, and she did not buckle. She did not have wobbly knees. She said, we're going to put your wobbly table legs and get you strong enough to stand and pass the ball on to help somebody else. Because that's really what it's about. That's at the core of this conversation. Somebody helped us, so we got to pass it on and pay it forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Donnie, so much for all that you do.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. You enjoy your weekend.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next week, 12 noon. If I think better, I do better. Praise the Lord.